Hello. The subject of this video today is, of course, the Holocaust, the reason for the Holocaust. Um, it seems to me, in general, and this is not a condition that any one particular religion or anything suffers from. This is just in general across the board. Human beings in general in the United States and anywhere else I talk to them seem to have a general aversion to discussing the meaning or the symbolism or the reason for the Holocaust. They don't want to discuss it. I spoke to a Orthodox Jewish rabbi in Nashville, Tennessee, about a year ago, well, a year and a half ago. And I asked him, amongst my many questions, I had probably about 100 questions. And one of my many questions was, what is the reason for the Holocaust? And his answer was very sharp. It was very quick. There was no hesitation in his voice whatsoever. He says, it's an extremely dangerous thing to ascribe any meaning or reason to the Holocaust whatsoever. And I said, why is that? And he says, well, there's just too many things that can happen when you do that. When you open up that can of worms, and when you open up that Pandora's box, it just causes, too many problems. It's a very sensitive issue, extremely sensitive issue among many people, not just Jewish people that lived during those days that weren't Jewish people, that people that loved the Jewish people were affected deeply by that. Even now, well over 60 years after the fact, people are affected deeply by it. There are a lot of people who really and truly do hate Jewish people who have spoken out and said that the Holocaust never happened. They say that it was just a myth. I was watching a video about Iran's leader. I can't pronounce his last name. I think, or his name is something like Abinajab or whatever. But his assertion or whatever the word is that basically the Holocaust is just a myth made up by people who want to destroy them. It's just a myth. The Jew lovers made up the myth of the Holocaust to make everybody feel sorry for the Jews. You'll have these black Hebrew people that'll tell you that, and all these different people, the KKK and the Nazis will tell you that it's just a myth, or the people died, but they died because they were were bombed or whatever. There was no such thing as an Auschwitz or a Belgian Bersen or any other concentration camp. That all these things were just a myth in these people's minds. That Schindler's List is one big lie. I was in Germany one time back in, I guess it was around 1996, and I was in Frankfurt am Main, and the newspaper headline on the first day I got there said basically, Schindler's List is full of crap. That's basically what the newspaper was saying. The exact translation is probably not that, but that's what it was basically saying. I speak German, but I'm not very good at interpreting it and translating it. But basically, the message was that it was all made up. It was just a Hollywood thing, and it was just it doesn't tell the story the way it really happened. And of course, it made the Nazis out to be monsters, which they were. The Nazis were absolutely monsters. So there's two basic camps when it comes to discussing the Holocaust. There's the people who believe it absolutely that it happened and are very, very sensitive about it. That just the thought of it, just the thought of what those people did to other human beings is absolutely unconscionable. And it's just such a deep wound and such a deep subject that to even suggest that there might have been a reason for it in any sense of the word, whether philosophically, whether religiously, whether morally, whether anything, for any reason other than a bunch of insane people got together and murdered people. That's the only reason that anybody wants to entertain. And of course, I realized that being a Christian and being white and being, blonde hair and blue eyed and being an evangelical, that simply by suggesting that there might be a reason other than just human evil, will put me in a very, very uncomfortable seat. But I think it's important that we open up this discussion and we talk about this, because to ignore one of the most, if not the most significant events in human history. I mean, you're talking about an entire race of people that came nearly to the brink of extinction by another race. I mean, an entire race of people, and these aren't just any people; these are God's people. Okay, there's a big difference between just somebody random dying and people going, oh well, how could God let that happen? How could God let my baby be killed by an out of control car? People say, well, how could God let that happen? Well, that's bad and it's sad, but people die and bad things happen. There are bad people out there that do bad things, but we're talking about almost an entire race of human beings that was almost completely wiped out, cold-bloodedly, calculatedly, by another group of people. And this race of people happens to be the chosen people of the one true God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is a highly, highly significant point of history, highly significant event that we cannot, I don't think anymore, simply ignore and say, well, or not ignore it. We can't ignore the reason behind it. There must be a reason for it. And we need to discuss that. We need to find out what that reason is. I'm going to check my camera here to see how much time I have left. Okay, I got about 2 minutes. So, what I would like to do, instead of telling you right now what I believe, what I've come up with, my reasons are, because if I did that without setting up the discussion, without asking questions, without making general statements, and then receiving feedback, if I just made a statement of what I've come up with and how I've struggled over it for many years, having Jewish relatives, having Jewish friends, considering myself part of the Jewish nation by virtue of being grafted in through faith. And being, in some sense a Zionist. In some sense, I'm a Zionist. I believe that Israel should be self-governing, should be governed by Jewish people. I don't think that everything that we're doing politically is correct, and everything that they're doing politically is correct. But I am, in a sense, a Zionist in some respects. But we can't ignore this. We can't ignore this anymore. I think there must be a reason for the Holocaust. And so without telling you right off the bat what I believe, what I've come up with after struggling, after crying, after many, many tears and many, many nights just contemplating and trying to figure out, struggling with it, praying and asking God, I guess, why it happened, what is the meaning of this, what are we supposed to gain from this. Without telling you what I've come up with, I'm going to propose a few possible reasons for it, and I'm going to let you give me feedback and tell me what you think. Tell me if you think any of these reasons are accurate, if any of these reasons strike true, if any of these reasons do you think are possible reasons for it. And then we need to discuss this. It needs to start here on my channel and work its way through YouTube, MySpace, the entire internet, the entire world. We need to find out. We need to come to a conclusion. Why did the Holocaust happen? So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to make part 2 here in just a second. Thank you.